Alright, hey guys. First, I want to apologize because it's going to be a little different than the other ones. So, I do overnight security at a hotel Friday night and Saturday night, and we are getting that big snow thing going on in Iowa. So, I'm staying at the hotel I work at, and that means that I have an HVAC unit next to me in case any of the mic stuff cuts out. So there, I put a filter on it in Streamlabs to try and help with that. And as you can see, I'm also streaming screen view because I can get the application view to work and whatnot. Second thing is I have a MacBook for my laptop because it's much better for my dissertation stuff and what I'm doing in my profession once I finish graduating. So the resolution isn't really going to be the greatest. I think even the in-game client is 16 by 10 instead of 16 by 9, and the output resolution of this is going to be 16 by 9. So I'm not super sure how much is going to be cut out or how bad it's going to be. I did run a couple tests, but there's only so much I can do when I have just the one night to set up. I'm checking my phone from what I had before, and it looks like just sort of that top part where it says the overall kill count will be cut off, which hopefully shouldn't be the end of the world. I'll be discussing anything that happens in that regard. So with all those caveats out of the way, and you would not believe the number of hoops I had to jump through to get this to work. Like, I had to download the replay files, download random replay files of my own, swap the names, then copy over the downloaded replay files into the directory. So now when I launch quote unquote my replays, I'm tricking the game into launching the replays you guys send. Then Mac has all sorts of weird audio settings where it won't let you record microphone audio and desktop audio at the same time, so you have to download a controller to spoof a multi-device output. It's a nightmare. So again, it won't be perfect, but I'm just trying to explain why. And now with all that aside, I did want to talk about drafts a little bit. Overall, I thought the drafts were generally pretty okay, but I think we didn't necessarily play to the drafts, which is why I wanted to discuss the drafts a little bit more and sort of see what would have worked better. So, first pick Zaheen, Broken Champion. Great. So, fine with that, but if we're first picking a Broken Champion in side lane, we have to understand that they're likely going to get counterpick. If they're likely going to get counterpick, then we are going to want to invest resources into the Broken Champion and make top lane a focal point of the game. So if we're not willing to play around top lane, if we're prioritizing like blue and Broken Champion like Zaheen, then Zaheen won't feel as broken. So they respond Sejuani Jinx. Sejuani is generally good in as a pair-up partner to any of the champions that they'd want to lane with Zaheen, right? Any auto attack resetters, I know are just going to stand there and fight with him. Sejuani works really well. Then they have Jinx bot lane. So to me, when they pick Jinx bot lane, I want a bot lane that is going to make their life miserable, right? So I like the Caitlyn ADC pick. The problem is, even though I like the Caitlyn ADC pick, picking Zaheen first, then Caitlyn second, we've created a situation where we want our jungler to be on both sides of the map simultaneously. The only way we can really get around that is if we have a winning mid lane matchup, and then the mid lane acts as a pseudo jungler that constantly roams. In this game, we got a decent enough mid lane matchup. Grumpy was smashing Talia's face in, but that created a third lane we wanted to play around. Grumpy wasn't quite able to secure that many kills in lane, but we'd want to play with him to make sure he can keep snowballing. And now we've created an issue where all three lanes are actively pushing or getting pushed, where we want to play around all three lanes. And we can't really facilitate that. Maokai is a great jungle champion, but he's not a fast champion on the map. He's not going to rotate quickly and be in places to cover these plays. So when I think of an aggressive lane, bot lane, that would punish the Jinx, I'm primarily thinking mage supports here. Right, something that just makes laning miserable. Don't have to play for the push, right? Like, theoretically you could have gone Caitlyn Lux, but you don't have to play for the push. So picking a different ADC that maybe does better into the Sejuani Jax, like a big one that comes to mind would be Varus, and we have Zahina as a bruiser that's going to have a ton of DPS in fights, so we can go lethality Varus here. We can also go just like a standard crit Varus, or we could go on hit Varus, right? We have all those options going into the game. Then at the end we can say, okay, poke probably would have worked best here because it's Renata, Talia, Jinx, right? But the big thing is Verisol is going to stop the Jax Sejuani. We still have the DPS out of Zahine. So if we run like a Varus brand lane, Varus Lux, Varus Swain, Varus Karma even. And Karma would be a really good pair partner with Zahine as well in team fights. Then we have this really oppressive winning bot lane into the Jinx. And we have a lane that's a little more self-sufficient. We don't want other people there. There's enough damage to get the kills, make the plays happen on their own. There's enough peel to play back safely. And then it works better into whatever they're going to pick. So I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is that bot lane. I like where you were going with aggressive bot lane and Caitlyn Nautilus. I just think having a powerful abusive bot lane that you don't have to play around would work a lot better here. Second game, I think the second one is the draft that I discussed with you guys a little bit more already, where I felt like Thresh was really out of place. Thresh didn't really do anything in this draft. I'm not the biggest fan of the Aurora top, especially since at this stage we're already thinking it might have been top lane Anivia, might have been support Anivia, we weren't really sure. But my biggest argument here is, or I take that back, I picked the Aurora before the Anivia. But we see their first three, we see Yunara, Vi, Ahri. None of them are particularly bulky. Vi becomes a little bit bulky, but Vi also is the jungler. Vi generally doesn't have that much gold. Vi generally won't have that many items. So having not enough AP doesn't really feel like a problem in the draft at this point. And we can always sort of, again, fix that on the support pick, because we already have frontline engage between, like, Wukong and Galio. So I think, really, this series, from a draft perspective, to me, feels like we're unwilling to let mid and jungle play the engage roles. Because even game one, right, you have Lissandra as well, and Lissandra can act as engage. So we're unwilling to let mid-jungle engage. We're trying to force support to play engage. But a lot of these games, it would have been a lot better for us. Like, again, imagine a Brandon to a Tahm Kench. How unplayable is that for Tahm Kench? It'd be good to not have Vibrate going on the desk. I'm recording it, sorry about that. Something like a Swain this game too, where you're farming so many free stacks in lane than just drain tanking. So I think you have these other options that would just work better. The last sort of option that stands out to me is Vi RATK from like an engaged dive perspective is all about going forward. We don't have great peel here. So the other really good option you could have picked, which then also stops them from picking it in future games, is Zyra. So again, like, I don't know what champs we do or don't play, but I'm just mentioning all of these because these are viable options. Then if we did want to sort of double down into the engage, but needed magic damage, I've played Nico into TK, and that matchup feels fine as long as we're not getting hit by W 24/7. So you'd still have engage, you still have options, you have a lot of follow-up. So I think a lot of the pieces are there. We're just unwilling to make certain changes. And this last game, their draft is a little all over the place. I will say, I think I might have misheard someone in draft when they said Braum, and I heard Brand, and so I was like, it doesn't matter for all AP, they have no tank. So I thought we were going to go like Ashe Brand into the Ezreal Teemo, and then have someone dealing kind of spell damage that they can't stop. Because we're going to have Super Tank Mundo walking around the map. But from a draft perspective, I like the blue on Ashe. They grab Sylas Ezreal. Sylas is fairly agnostic. Ezreal is an okay lane into Ashe, but it's still an Ashe favored lane. Then we grab Diana, Akali. So we grab 2 dive champions when we have one of the best ADC picks. To me, that feels very wrong. Right, if we have one of the best ADC picks, why are we not picking front-to-back champions? On top of that, they have one of the lowest teamfight DPS ADC picks. Right, Ezreal does a lot of poke damage, but he's not a great DPS champion in these fights. Sorry, usually I'd mute when I have to clear my throat or something. I don't have like a easily accessible mute button. So, like, if we picked Mundo on 2 here, and we're willing to flex Mundo into jungle, and then picked something like Ahri's out, Anivia's out, Aurora's out, Lissandra's out. Yeah, I mean, I think something like a Syndra here, right, where Syndra is a decently powerful champion. Jesus Christ, I'm so sorry. Now I'm dying on my own phlegm. So you have Syndra. Normal answer is Orianna, but that's a losing matchup for Orianna. Other normal response is Akali, but if they don't play Akali, it's actually really difficult for Akali to play that lane. Some of the other better mages that can sort of outrange and keep you at bay are banned. I say that in Syndra's banned. So Syndra's out of the picture, Mel's out of the picture. Could be an okay Rise angle if we played Rise. I don't think there are many great answers into Rise. Then the other good one I think would be Annie. The cool thing with Annie is that her passive is the stun. Tibbers isn't. So Sylas might be able to steal a bear, but he can't steal the stun. So Annie having the burst and being able to play back as well, I think makes a lot more sense here, where you can either sort of play to catch out people or play sort of that more front to back. Then let's say they pick Teemo and then they reveal the Mbessa. First, I don't think they'd really pick Mbessa in that situation. But if they did, it's still an okay matchup for Annie. Right, like Mbessa tries to all-in Annie, Annie all-ins Mbessa, and Annie gets a stun. So, unless Mbessa can literally instant, like, two-shot Annie, should be pretty good lane for Annie. But then at that point, we start to feel more confident that that Sylas is jungle instead of mid. And I think we've assumed it was jungle the entire time as well. So then maybe we don't necessarily want to pick another tank because we already have Mundo. Maybe we still want to send the Mundo top, and then we have an option of picking someone else in jungle. Alright, so like Wukong is down, Xin is down, Vi is down. So with Ezreal being up and selected, Jarvan doesn't feel as good. Yeah, I mean, I think from a jungle perspective, I'd much rather just run the Mundo jungle here. And then from a top lane perspective, we can literally pick anything. So obviously we can't pick things that have been banned, so Sion, Renekton, Rumble off the table. But I think we also have to acknowledge that this could be Mbessa top. So without knowing for sure, again, without knowing top lane champ pool, I think I mentioned Singe would Loki be a really good pick in a lot of these games. So if it's played, if it's not, you know, so be it. Mbessa and Sylas sort of have to run into you. So playing something like a Darius or an Aatrox, and more so playing just to sit on your Ashe, could be pretty effective as well. Urgot could work really well there. And Set would fill a similar role. So you have a couple other champions there that can sort of filter out and body block, and that lets you play that front to back. So those are just some considerations that you guys could have when it comes to draft and how a draft might impact gameplay decisions. Because right now it feels like you're sort of picking a couple good champions here and there, you have decent matchups in isolation, but then when it comes to sort of the aggregate, it feels like certain parts are just left out to dry. So this was the first game I already had loaded up. HSC. Shift C. Oh, see, that's strange. Nothing works the same way on Mac. But let's restrict this to your perspective. 5 pointing, that's great. ADC lost flash. I mean, I feel like anytime we lose flash like that, it could have been avoided. Just, you know, paying more attention. Because how do they even walk in here? How do we lose flash? So this is our vision times 1 speed. Oh, we're just standing at the wrong part of the bush. So from a vision perspective, you want to be standing at the top of the bush here. That will let you see much further out. Because now, look how close they are when they see you. Right, if we sort of zoom into like a regular perspective, by the time, and we're also stuck around a cliff, so I can't even walk straight, I have to walk towards them for a second as well. Right, so look how close we are in this situation. So if we're standing at the top here, we'll see them sooner, and we can still just walk out this top way instead of having to walk out the bottom way. I can just hit us with that ability with her Q without even needing to flash to catch us. Alright, so it's just a little bit of sloppy positioning. A similar thing applies to a lot of bushes. Right, there's a lot of weird terrain around these bushes that can stop you from seeing as far as you should be able to. God, that's a disgusting electrocute trade mid. But good gank there. I like the gank. Blew both sums really early. But to me, that only matters if we're then ready to re-gank. Right, so now we have 3-minute timer for cleanse, 5-minute timer for flash, where we can re-gank and make something happen. And if we don't re-gank, then that was really just a wasted gank. But good clear to top. I think top laner already said didn't need to auto there, could have lived this while. Which usually wouldn't be super important, because we still did guarantee the second kill and you got assist credit. But you lost a lot of XP from the wave. So that's the other thing to sort of consider there. So now cleanse is back up for Jinx, and we haven't made a subsequent play happen. And next couple seconds, flash is going to be back up as well. So we got... Hello? Mouse? There we go. So we did secure this dragon. Alright, but my my sort of concern here is the Sandra basically keeps Talia zoned out and almost one-shots Talia. So how does Nautilus die? Alright, so Nautilus is eating damage from Sejuani, walks up. Still pretty healthy here. So we just decided we wanted to die. What? Am I missing something here? So I'm gonna double check if I can see the live feed on my phone. Because I'd love to make sure I can see the live feed so that you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay, yes. So on the live feed on my phone, I was right about what's sort of cropped out. It's literally just that top little bar, like that top inch where you see the scoreboard and gold and stuff in it. If that's important, I will talk about it. So you can see the cooldowns with me. So Nautilus has Q and flash up. Nautilus could Q terrain to walk away here. Like, at any point it could have buffered it between some of these abilities. Nautilus could have stepped backwards and flashed over these traps. Or flashed over the traps, then Q'd away or something. So, this death is completely unnecessary, and on top of that, we blow both of our suns. Right, we could live with just using flash, but instead we chose to die using both suns. And so that's just one of those things where we make mistakes, maybe we think we're going to be able to collapse on the bottom side of the fight, but if I recall correctly from watching the scrim, the entire conversation was around picking the Talia as she rotated to the objective. So the way we were posturing sounded like we wanted Grumby to flank sort of through their jungle, E over the wall here, and ult into this fight. And I think there's a lot of merit to taking that fight. Right? Because I think getting the pick on the Talia is the quick, easy, like, 99% play. But Grumby getting over the wall there and getting like 3 kills or setting up 3 kills for the team maybe that's close to like a 60-70% play, but that would get us way further ahead. So I really like that play. The problem is we were talking about the Talia play. Both are equally valid plays to go for, but if we're discussing the Talia play, we have to play as though we're looking at the Talia. And so that's a big part of the communication thing I already mentioned in the thread. Oh, let me swap this back to directed camera. And yes, I really like the sort of setting there to have almost a transparent background on the minimap. It's cool. I like it. You might not, but I do. So fuck you. So, the other big thing I want to point out is Sejuani's been spending a lot of time top. Right? To the point where Maokai has, like, equal farm, even though Sejuani should generally have a slightly faster... Not faster in that she clears the camps much faster, but she has better mobility in the jungle. Also rush tier 2 boots while we're still sitting on 3 boots. So Sejuani is losing a lot for camping top, but our top laner is losing a lot as well, right? Essentially, once Jax thins out this wave a little bit, right, it's about a 25 CS deficit. So gold-wise, right, down 400, 500 gold, and this is an advantageous matchup for the Jax. So even though Jax is at a slight XP deficit, right, overall, he's in a much better position. I think this was really well played, where we dodged out on a lot using the Zaheen ult. I think we already discussed how we could have played this better, right? Grumby was already coming in, so Sejuani was already confirmed dead. Then Jax gets out, so we could have gotten 2 there. You guys already discussed it in game, I don't need to harp on it too much. But those types of things as well, again, that's like the communication where it's really important, discussing who we're targeting, you know, and that way we're not sending 3 people on 1 person when 1 person could be chasing the last remaining guy. So, like, right now, overall, game looks really good here. So you can't see the gold at the top, but 13 minutes in, 9 kills to 4 kills. As a team, we're up 2k gold, and we have grubs. So the important thing is what this translates to. So with Zaheen getting all the kills on that roam, he's up gold now. Maokai is still about equal gold with Sejuani. Lissandra has a massive gold lead on Talia. ADCs are about equal, and supports are about equal. So our gold lead is strictly mid lane, pretty much. Right, 300 gold lead tie, it's not make or break. The problem with this is we pick Caitlyn to dumpster Jinx, but Jinx is doing just fine. Right, they're basically equal gold, Jinx is actually a little ahead of gold. So the Caitlyn pick for us hasn't accomplished anything. With this game state, with us winning these team fights, with us having grubs, the expectation would be that, hey, we have more plates bot lane. At absolute bare minimum, we have more plates bot lane, especially since Sejuani has been sitting top for so long. But because we paired Caitlyn with Nautilus, it's so hard for us to actually get push in this lane and to make Caitlyn useful. So now we're entering the stage of the game where Caitlyn is much weaker than Jinx, right, as we're hitting that 1 to 2 item threshold. And because of that, Jinx is going to just be a much better champion up until we get like 5-6 items again, where Caitlyn's just threatening one-shots on squishies if they step in a trap. So, draft-wise, and even play-wise, right, because Maokai blue flash bot, reganked it early, played a lot around bot lane. we didn't get much return for that investment. And so that's why I was sort of discussing in draft where I'm like, hey, if we're doing this, we need double ranged. If we pick ranged melee, it's very iffy on if things could happen. I just smacked my mouse off the little stand I was using as a mouse pad. So this is one of those plays where it's a little tricky to know. Actually, I take that back. It's not tricky at all. We have really good vision setup. So we see the Sejuani is on wolves. Right, and so you'll see on the minimap when the camp dies. Alright, so I don't know if we're going to be able to catch her, so we don't quite see the Sejuani crossing over. But we saw Sejuani on wolves. We can assume that she's crossing up. So just based on what we know, we can generally assume that she's in this area. Maybe she got here a little earlier and was starting to walk up. Maybe she got here a little bit later and was maybe on this side of the wall. Alright, but we know Sejuani's right here. Unless we're 100% confident that we just instantly one-shot the Talia, it's really risky to go for this. And so the hook misses. And I'm assuming that's just because we're a little desynced on this play. Yeah, so Grumby goes in really early. I understand why you're going in early, right? Because Talia's just shoving the wave. But this is a cannon, and the cannon hasn't taken any damage. And there's now no vision of the Nautilus. So if we wait a couple of seconds, not only does the Nautilus get closer to being in position where you can hook off of your ultimate, and you guys get the CC chain and super clean, easy kill, but now with the Sejuani that we know is in this general area, you're now making the play happen as soon as Sejuani is a little too far away, right? Sejuani's halfway to Krug's, play happens. Talia's already dead before Sejuani can make it back in time. So this is just one of those situations where we pulled the trigger a little early, and we get punished pretty hard for it. Alright, that was a 447 gold shutdown. Alright, this fight sort of extends a bit. We lose 2 or 3 more people. Yeah, we lose 3 more people, and a lot of those are shutdowns as well. So even though Grumby TP's back and gets a trade, the gold right now at the very top is dead even. So if we look at that sort of gold spread, Sejuani is now, like, noticeably ahead of Maokai. Renata is noticeably ahead of Nautilus. And Grumby's lead hasn't really grown. So that's another like 1 to 2k gold shift. Now we're dead even, but Jinx scales better. Jack scales better. At least in the context of this game. Like, you could definitely make arguments where Zaheen scales better. But like, Zaheen should not be beating Jax in side lane. So Jinx scales better, Zaheen scales better, Renata scales better. I'd make the argument that Talia scales better as well, because Talia has better range. So now that we've sort of thrown away that lead and we don't have anything to play around, it just feels a lot worse. And so then I think starting around now, yeah, I mean, that was just really bad pathing. This is one of those situations where you should just let the guy die. The fact that Maokai is alive for this long is disgusting. Right. But this is just, we let Zaheen die, everyone else walks out, but instead we have 3 deaths. And so now you guys can't see it at the top, but it's a 1.5k gold deficit. Right, now Jax is up 1k gold. Sejuani is up over 1k gold. And so this is what I was talking about, where this is like a super clear example I remembered in the back of my mind about just like that clear desync, where this fight was like as good as it was going to get for us. Pretty bad Maokai ultimate. Doesn't really get much. But we essentially killed Sejuani at the start of the fight. Alright. So we get 1 for 1. And we have numbers advantage because Jax is top. They have no frontline anymore. So I am completely okay with Zaheen coming in here full sending it trying to murder people if he has support. Obviously Maokai can't run up to support him at this health. But none of the rest of us are even like pretending that we're going to look in that direction. So now we lose the numbers advantage. Now we're only frontliners sitting at 200 health. Now Jinx is excited. Right, and now this is, you know, just a slaughterhouse. So I really feel like this is sort of the big turning point right here. Like, this is where we lose the game. Yes, the game keeps going for another, I don't know, 7-8 minutes. But this is where we lose the game because of that desync. We lose this objective 5 for 1, and the entire time Jax is split pushing, so Jax just got another, you know, what, 600 local gold off that tower? So again, you can't see it at the top, but now it's us 33.5k gold to them 37.9k gold. They have a 4.5k gold lead at this point. And they generally have it on the correct people. Jax has a almost 2k gold lead on Zaheen. No one can 1v1 Jax. Sejuani has almost a 1.5k gold lead on Maokai. If we ever hit Sejuani first, Sejuani's not going to die. Still have a slight gold lead on Grumpy. Alright, about 600 gold right now. So at least that's in our favor. Then Jinx is 600 gold ahead of Caitlyn. Like, right now at this stage of the game, this is where Caitlyn is at her weakest, so if we're down 600 gold, it feels so bad. We really need to be up like 1k gold, 1.5k gold, to even feel even right now, ADC versus ADC. And then Renata's extra gold right now doesn't mean anything, right? Because a lot of this gold is in pocket right now. That is going to translate into things like Ardent Censor, or Redemption, or other things that are just going to make this unkillable wall even that much more problematic. So I want to fast forward to sort of the next fight we had. I think this was around Otacon. Maybe? Oh yeah, this fight was so weird. Because I think this is like the last time you guys really put up a fight. So, to set the stage, you guys are down 6k gold. Right? It looks like some more of that was Jinx now having a slightly bigger lead, Talia being closer in gold with Lissandra, and Jax having a bigger lead over Zaheen. So, like, all the bad things becoming worse. So 6k gold, that's like 2 full items spread across the team. And especially if that's focus centered on like Jax and stuff, that's big. So big issue here, just don't have the damage, right? Between Merc Treads and Seraphs, Talia survives the burst. And I don't really think there's much itemization I would say do differently at this stage of the game. Like, it looks like you're building towards Zanya's, and I think that's important for you to get. So we just don't really have the damage to kill Talia in one go. And we'll get her, but now we don't have cooldowns, right? We don't have Talia Flash, we don't have Lissandra Flash, we don't have Lissandra ult. So even though Maokai and Nautilus are now looking on the Jinx, what damage do we have? Caitlyn and Zaheen are both mid lane right now. Right? If Caitlyn and Zaheen were here in River, and we're like flanking the Jinx right now, this could be an insanely good play. But right now we're pulling the trigger and using all our cooldowns when we don't have people here. So Jinx is getting a lot of damage out. She's tanking Zaheen, or tanking Otacon, which is bad. But she's free hitting, getting resets, and we have no way of really getting on top of her. So she finally goes down, because Jinx played that horribly, for the record. Jinx played that terribly. So we kill her, again, right? But now we've lost 2. Maokai is almost dead. And that just leaves us with Zaheen and Caitlyn. But right now it's looking okay, right? Favorable fight for us. We were at a 6k gold deficit. Now it's 4.5k gold. So not game-changing, but like not bad. The issue now is we overchased for the Renata. We weren't paying attention to the Jax on minimap at all, and he gets to clean up here. Right, and we can see Jax walking down right now on the minimap here. So we killed the Sejuani. If we stop right here, 3 for 2. Not super big in our favor, but we got shutdowns. I think all 3 of those were shutdowns. Well, I take that back. Talia did not have a shutdown. Renata actually had a surprisingly big shutdown, though. Yeah, okay. So, like, I don't mind us sort of looking, right? But now we blew the Renata flash, and we have to chase really far. We know the Jax is coming. I'd be okay saying, hey, 673 gold for Caitlyn is big. I'd be okay saying that, because it's true. And it's probably worth way more than giving Jax another 300 gold right now. Right? Because without that 670 gold Caitlyn just picked up, she's over 1k gold down on the Jinx. So I think it's important for Caitlyn to get that kill. But now we burned Flash. Alright, so now we don't have Flash. We use our barrier even though we're going to die before we come back up anyway. And now we're full sending it on this fight when we don't win this fight, right? Maokai could at least have gone out and survived. Right, but there's no reason for Jax, or for Zaheen... I'm sorry. There's no reason for Maokai to die when Zaheen's already dead. There's no world in which Zaheen gets out. There's no world in which Zaheen Maokai 2v1 the Jax at that stage. So that's a lot of sort of the cutting losses stuff as well. Then they're able to secure Otacon, snowball the game. And I don't want to sort of keep us hostage in this replay too much longer. Just trying to keep an eye on how much time I'm spending. Yeah, and I overwrote these 3 replays, so I'm trying to remember the order. I think my ARAM replay was next. For game 2. See if I remember that correctly. Yes, I did. Okay. What did I do? Zoom out before? Command Shift Z doesn't work. Control Shift Z, I guess, does work. Just a weird delayed response there. It's after I let go it worked. Ugh, we love Mac not playing nicely with everything else and making life difficult. So I think this was one where he had one of the worst early games. And, you know, it happens. I think Vi got really fed for no apparent reason. I don't think there will be too much to go to review up until we get into, I think it's that 4th dragon where it looks like the game really breaks open. Maybe a little bit before that third dragon, looking at the timeline. Because we traded 1-for-1 on the first blood. We're in position here and traded 1-for-1 on that second kill as well. So really close to feats. We could get the feats there, that'd be awesome. I mean, Grumby's just shitting on this guy. It's like, if we could make something, like we know Ari Flash is down, can we make something happen with Ari Flash being down? Looks like we're trying for it, but Ari just ticked over to level 6, and that makes things pretty tricky. They're on Dragon, we can't really contest it, that's fine. Oh, this is where we give them feats. Right, because I think there's a whole discussion... I guess not here, I guess it's like next camp cycle or something. I mean, good turnaround bot lane. We're trading grubs for that play. Oh, we're just not respecting the fact that Vi could be sitting there. So... This is one of those things, like... Okay, if we didn't miss that first and last shot, we get like 1 or 2 kills there. No. I just saw that on the minimap. Okay. I'm gonna keep this here, that we see this. Based on our vision, we watch Caitlyn walk, or not Caitlyn, fucking we watch Vi walk back into that bush. We are stepping forward here. Like, Vi has already reset. Right? Why would Vi have reset when we're posturing so aggressively? So, just general question there, right? As a Vi, I'm not carrying the game solo outside of pressing R on important people. Right? There's no reason for me to power farm. I'm not a power farming jungler. So if I can sit in a bush for an extra 5-6 seconds and there's a play to be made, I'm going to do it. And in this case, they're already giving up grubs. Most of Vi's camps are respawning topside right now. So it's not like Vi can immediately walk into botside jungle. Vi wants to reset before running topside. But Wukong's already topside on grubs. Using the extra 5 seconds to make a play happen here when you guys are posturing so aggressively, like the way you've been positioning makes me want to stay as a jungler. Not to mention we know that this person likes to just sit and bush camp because they did it constantly on the Sejuani game. So as you guys start playing these leagues and start scrimming against these teams, one thing you have to pick up on are player habits. So dude is playing a supportive jungler, Sejuani. Dude is playing a supportive jungler, Vi. When he plays supportive junglers, he is sitting in bushes for an extra 20-25 seconds to see if he can make a play happen. And so we played right into that here. Alright, and then, so we give them feats, we give them a second free kill here as well. Like, you know, I know why you're walking for it. You don't get out, so may as well try for the kill. But this is just one of those things where that shouldn't be happening. Alright, there's a good, you know, 70-80% chance they're still in the bush. So what happens if we play that lane a little safer? They both hit 6, uncontested. Okay. Do they just suddenly kill us if they hit 6? Probably not. But now we've given them a much easier way to sort of win and snowball the lane. So, that was an awkward sequence, but we did a good job overall of helping Grumby, then collapsing on the Inar, who stepped out of position. But again, the important thing here is, despite the kill score being 4-3 at this point, we're 1k gold down. So where's that gold lead? That gold lead right now is just Vi over Wukong. So the reason this is important is not because Vi is going to, be this bruiser that's one-shotting people and carrying the team fights. It's because Vi's their dive champion. And so Vi is going to cause disruption in the backline. So if Vi has a 1k gold lead and is really tanky, right? Because it's not just 1k gold lead on Wukong, but Wukong's behind. It's 1k gold lead and more gold than everyone in the game. So if Vi dives the backline is going to be, she's going to be so tanky that backline can't kill her fast enough. So then everyone else on equal gold fighting, their backline kills your front line, but you can't kill the Vi. Not to mention Wukong's itemization, like Triforce is one of the more expensive items in the game. So if we're going Triforce first, which I believe we'll have to see with that, because that almost looks like going Titanic. I could be misremembering my item build path, but it looks like Titanic. Anyway, so this was the sequence I was thinking about before. Alright, this is where we're saying, hey, they're invading Wukong. Right, the tricky thing here is if bot lane walks up to push, TK Vi show up behind them. Right, if Jhin Thresh walk this way, or even, whatever way they choose to walk in, if Vi TK get on top of them, they're just dead. So Jhin Thresh are effectively cut off from ever helping the Wukong. So right now we see the Yunara TK back in lane, we drop the ward, and now we see the Vi. Right, and we actually saw the Ahri here as well in this ward. So we know that Ahri and Vi are sort of on top of the Wukong. But again, if we're sort of thinking about cooldowns and item breakpoints, Wukong does not have a completed item. Vi does. Galio does not have a completed item. Ahri does. Jhin does not have a completed item. Yunara does. Alright, so 3 of the 4 roles that are going to be involved in this fight, if we get a full 4-on-4, their team has completed items and we don't. So anything we try to do here is just losing. So Thresh walking up here is just criminal. Right, whatever happened at Wolves already happened. Wukong doesn't have any other bot camps. Both of his top camps are up. Wukong just wants to clear up. We know that there's an extra, right, extras and Vi Ahri, 1 to 2 people in this area. There's no reason to be walking this way. So I think we just have some of these lapses of judgment where what we might want to do, and like the last time it was with the Nautilus play, if Lissandra flanked, like I think that would have been an equally good play. In this case, you're on a different page for a play. If you guys are on equal items, not necessarily a bad play, right? If they Vi ult the Thresh and then we Galio ult the Thresh, and then we also all have item breakpoints, could be a pretty good fight. But in this case, that's just not the situation. And so it feels like support right now is just on a very different wavelength than the rest of the team. And so happened, key moment last game, I guess maybe not chemo, but happened last game, happening now this game. And so I don't know if it's... because I'm trying to remember comms from this game. So I think all support said was he could walk. It didn't look like Wukong or Galio were really in position ready to react to that. So I don't think anyone said don't walk. And so I think it would be beneficial if we have someone that's also just saying, hey, don't do the thing. Right? We don't always have to be yes men. We're allowed to just say, hey, if you do that, you're inting. Sure, okay, no problem. I'm not going to do it. Um, then, yeah, I remember. I remember watching this, and I was like, oh god, what the hell is this? So we just came off of a decent sequence mid where he killed the Ahri. It was like some counter gank or something, and then we're looking for this play top. Right, we get the flash, don't get the Aurora Q, but we see people are walking up. I think Anivia has egg here anyway, right? Can I click on Anivia, please? Yeah, Anivia has egg here anyway. Even if we've popped the egg, as soon as we see other people are coming up, it's not happening. So we burn the flash, we miss Aurora's max stability. Should just be backing out here. Excuse me. Wukong has to flash. Then what is Thresh doing here? Because as he walks through the bush, we see the Ahri. I guess we don't technically know that the Vi is here. Right? Although I guess probably would have seen her. Yeah, so like I'm fixed to our vision. We saw Vi walk this direction, Ahri's walking this direction, TK's walking up. Right? We have all these warning pings coming out. I don't recall if this is being voiced in comms or not, but this should be being voiced in comms. This is just back out, right? Aurora even walked down further to confirm they were walking up. And we see the Ahri. We saw the Vi there for a split second. So we know that there are 3 people here. If Vi and Ahri ult, no one here is living long enough for a Thresh hook to matter. So Thresh right now, I wouldn't even risk walking this direction. I would be taking that blast cone over the wall and just making sure I'm sitting at full health. Right, the reason they can make this dive happen is because now Thresh is at 200 health. So this is really well played by them, where they get a lot of chip damage off, let the tower reset, Vi Qs one person, ults the next person, so double CCs that first person. So this was like a super clean, well-executed dive by them. But it was only made possible because we took so much extra damage and had to blow extra sums that we didn't need to if we were just playing a little more respectfully. And then, while that's going on, I remember Asiri being salty as fuck about this. Again, for context though, look at items. Your tier 2 boots offer no combat stats. Their tier 2 boots do. Your completed item helps with executing. Their completed item just helps with general DPS. Right, and so then that's sort of the big thing here. If you don't have the damage to kill Yunar in 4 autos, she just melts you. Right, and you just didn't have that damage threshold. Also, I don't remember what happened there, but okay. And just based off these items, like, I could have told you, you don't have that damage range. That's one of those ones where maybe take a shorter trade. Because I think the first auto is like a 4th shot. You had like a reload or something. Because you did good burst at the front. Maybe it was grenades or something. But like, you need to start the trade, force her to pop ult, back up, use your ult. Right, because your ult is going to be a lot of your damage right now on Jhin. So like, let's look at this damage that you get off. 1 auto, or that was grenades. There's your first auto, there's your second auto. 3rd auto. Right, look how little damage that 3rd auto did. So that's sort of my entire point here. You got the grenades, you got first auto, you got second auto. If you back up here and then curtain call, based on their missing health, does it give me what the math threshold is? Assuming linear scaling, Yunar's at 50% health, just about. So your auto, or each one of your curtain call bullets would be doing... That's what, a 360 range, so plus 180. So about 300 damage. So almost 50% more than each of your auto attacks would. If you hit subsequent curtain call shots, each subsequent shot is doing more damage, and then the last one is doing 200% damage. So it could literally be like close to 800 base damage shot on that last one. So that's where the bulk of your damage is at this stage of the game. So we had the really sloppy sequence topside that was enabled by Thresh losing their entire health bar and Wukong losing Flash. We had the 1v1 that we didn't need to take, but we opted into, even though if we think about it in terms of itemization, how the champions work, like we never really had kill threat. I think this game, the timeline looks a lot more even than it actually was. Right, because I think we always trade back 1 or 2 kills in a big sequence, but then they're always taking kills plus something. So kills plus objective, kills plus inhibitor, kills plus inhibitor, right? And so, yeah, like, I think I talked about that fight with you guys. And it's just, you know, they go in, sort of had 2 sides of the fight, don't have enough damage to actually kill anyone. Jhin can't really play. We're never taking the fight on our terms. We're getting like a Wukong to dive the backline ult, get the Galio ult on top, then get the Aurora burst. Right, with the champs we have, that's how we want to play the fights. Then, like, we do find the pick on the Anivia, but then we have to trade 2 or 3 people. And so, at this point, things really just sort of cascade out of control, right? We don't have vision in our own jungle. I can make arguments here and there about, hey, it's not safe to be walking there because we don't have vision. We have to assume that they're clearing our jungle. And that's fine and dandy, but I think at this point, right, the game is just lost. Our comp isn't really cohesive enough to make some type of comeback, even if we play super well. So I think I'll call this game here. If you think there's some other fight we need to discuss later on in the game, you can definitely pull this back up and take another look at it, but I don't think it's worth doing. And then that leaves this final game. And I think this was... We had a really difficult draft to play. So I don't think that helped.
Makes total sense. Just look closer and think about it.
Like, if we got super far ahead, maybe something happens, but it's much harder to execute. Their comp, while it looks like a bunch of random fun champions, right, it's not a cohesive comp either. But I would make the argument that at this point it almost feels like they're just playing comfort. Right, like support Teemo. Who the fuck plays support Teemo, right? Jungle Sylas. You're not just picking Sylas on R1 because you see an Ashe. Like, that's not how that pick usually works. So, I think this game for them is really just them playing comfort. And, you know, it's great for them. You know, they're just playing champions they want to play. Game 3, they already won the Scrim. Alright, so they're playing comfort, and I don't necessarily know that we are. Right, I think a lot of these picks are just, I can play this champion. It's not like this is my go-to make or break champion. I can play this champion, right? I can play Mundo. I can play Ashe. I know Grumby doesn't like playing Akali, even though his Akali is pretty fucking clean. Alright. So it's like, it's a bunch of champs where I don't... Sure, I can. Not that I want to. So even though I'd argue we have better champions overall, right, it's shit comp versus shit comp, so if they have comfort, that's gonna edge out every time. But I think we did a much better job with communication. I think it's a lot of greedy stuff that... Because I think here is where we fall behind really quickly early. So, Akali's out of the fight. Half health, no ult. Then... Like... Right now in this freeze frame, we have one grub. So if I pan back up so you guys can see it, we already have one grub. We've already used Smite, so it's not like we can easily get a second grub here. And they know we're in here, or at least they suspect we're in here, because we dropped a pink in here. Right, they're forcing Kali out now. They have 3 people mid, and we just watched Viewer walk into River. So, with all that going on, I think we need to back out of Pit a little faster. So, yeah, we secured second grub. But now at what cost? Right, this Fiora has essentially 4 longswords to your recurve bow and Fiendish Codex. Right, so you lose half your health instantly. Sure, if you are ulted, right? But you lose half your health instantly. But Akali can't be here, so now it's a 4v3. And Silas had Braum ult here as well. So, Diana gets insta-killed, force the Mundo to flash and ult to run away. Braum is trying to walk out. Then, this is another one, like... How are you ever going to get in position here to influence this fight? So to me, it makes no sense why we'd be waiting, or why we'd be walking back in. And so now Mundo walks over to try and help you get out. And so now you have to flash. And now Mundo dies for your sins. And then Silas cleans you up. So we could have just lost Diana. And realistically, if we were okay just taking a single grub, we didn't even have to lose Diana. Right? We could have just wasted their time mid on the gank on Akali. Everyone could have walked out. Diana overstays, sure. We lose Mundo Flash, but then everyone else gets out. But then Braum walks back in, maybe to try and help Mundo, even though Mundo looked like he was getting out. And then doing that costs us another 2 deaths. So, this was sort of that big point I was talking about of, if someone's just dead, let them die. Right? It's super difficult for us to make these hero plays work out, especially if we're not, like, fed and playing champions with super high agency. And then, if we're fed, right, we're then risking shutdowns. Is it worth the risk? So, because of that series of decisions, it's fucking highway robbery, but we get the 3 grubs. Shouldn't. But we somehow have 3 grubs and first dragon. But 10 minutes into the game, we're down 2k gold. And that 2k gold, decent chunks on Fiora, which is pretty big. And then 1k of that is on Silas, which is also pretty big. And so then, I was looking at the gold. So I would be willing to bet this is another one where situation was okay, and we made sure it was no longer okay. So let's take a look at what happens here. Ambessa kind of ints. Flare tries to turn around and ults. Oh no, this was the one good thing that we did. This was the one good fight. So I think we did okay there. And then we're panicking about the shrooms, which is valid. So that was Ambassa overstep. So we punished the overstep. I don't think Flare necessarily had to ult in. I think it was like Ambassa had already killed herself. Silas is already going to get chunked. And I think this is where we run into problems here, where we're fighting things we don't have to. If we bounce back to mid here. Right. So they're on Braum. Braum doesn't have W, so awkward positioning here. Did we just see Mbessa walk over that wall there? Yeah. So like I think it's okay to say Braum pathing down towards Raptors is fine. Right? But then the issue here is Diana staying. Right? And so Diana could have just walked out that entire time. But Diana dies. And then Braum dies. And now Ashe walked up. And Ashe dies to red buff. Now where did that red buff come from? Because Diana died. Right, because Diana died, Ezreal got red buff. So had Diana not gone in to save Braum, just Braum dies, and everyone else walks out. But because Diana walked back in to try and help the Braum, we lose 3 people instead of just the 1. And so these are sort of the decisions that we're making where, instead of being in an ahead position, making a mistake and still being in a pretty solid spot, we're in an ahead position, and now we're in a behind position. Or we were in a neutral position, but now the game is like completely unplayable. We were in a bad position, now there's no chance of coming back. So you just have to make sure we're cutting our losses when stuff like that happens. There were a lot of things that happened at the same time there. So I think the first thing is looking top lane. We're looking to sort of counter gank here. In order for us to really successfully counter gank, we either have to have the damage to threaten them as they dive, or Mundo has to be healthier. Right now, I'd make the argument that Mundo's too weak, so they don't have to blow major cooldowns on Mundo, and then it's just 2v1 under tower, and Diana's fairly squishy at this point. Right. So, really good ult. That's about as good as it possibly could have gone. Right? And then we still both die there. And we only get 1 back. So, it's a little tricky there because it's either 1 for 0 or it's going to be 2 for 1. Maybe if we show, instead of trying to play the counter gank, they don't go for it, at which point it's 0 for 0, which could be the favorable option there. And oftentimes in a position like this, you just want to make sure you get the XP, even if you don't get the CS. So I would advise in situations like that, Diana just shows to decentivize the dive. But while that's happening, we have a 1v1 mid. Yeah, we just got our ankles broken. So this is Eclipse, right? Yeah. So Ambessa has Eclipse. And I think we just, honestly, we just pressed R1 too early, so we jumped back into the wave. If we waited half a second to orient ourselves slightly better, We could R1 in a safer direction, and then R2 out, instead of being able to sort of get chased down like that because we R1 the incorrect direction. So just a little patience there. But this was the game where I think we had the best communication. We were playing together the most. But it really does just feel like there are a lot of these individual mistakes that are happening. But a good pick. We're getting the tower. Another good play. Also, I don't know why I'm on Grumpy Cam. So here's where directed cam would be great. So here's where Diana walked through mid and we get the kill. So then it looks like the Kalos were trading Dragon for Herald. But everyone is super late to help out Diana. So the 13 Fiora murders Diana super quickly. We don't have a Kali ult to execute the Fiora, which allows the Fiora to get out. We do get the Fiora. Right, but then, again, it's a 2-for-1 trade. It could have been 1-for-0. We get the Ambessa. Maybe we wait a little bit longer for people to move towards Herald to help us, so Diana doesn't just straight up die to the Fiora before anyone can help. Like, I understand wanting to trade, but we also have to respect the fact that Fiora has first to move there, and she can slaughter Mundo if he walks there by himself. Have to respect the fact that Akali doesn't have ult anymore, so even though Akali is alive, we're missing that execute. And it just shouldn't quite be doing that. But then, hey, we trade 1-for-1, now we trade 2-for-2. Could have just been 1-for-0. It sucks that we lose the dragon, but we're behind in gold. So it's difficult for us to always take the clean trades. Right, getting the extra kill on Akali is a win. Respecting the fact that we don't have Akali ult anymore is important. It's a relatively low cooldown, so you can make another play fairly soon, but just not immediately after. I also could be wrong, but I feel like we're not making the most use out of Hawkshot, and that's not necessarily strictly Ciri's fault either, right? We can be calling for Hawkshots. But one thing Ashe does is provide vision, and it feels like we are getting caught off guard a couple of times when some of these rotates. Right? And so then here we're hawkshotting to bot tier 2. Right? Why are we hawkshotting to bot tier 2? You know, if we're wanting to check for Sylas in bot river, okay. But, like, you could have the thing explode between the camps so that the linger effect is between the camps instead of on a tower where we don't expect anyone to be standing. So there are a lot of little things like that. And so here it feels like we're prepping for the objective. Right? They used Ezreal ult, and Bessa ult, and Sylas stole an Ashe ult. We still have Braum ult, we still have Ashe ult, Akali ult is about to come back up. It's like, this would be an ideal fight to take if we could turn around and hit, but Ashe isn't here with us, right? It's Diana. Diana right now is way behind the curve of the game. Granted, so is Bessa. But Diana right now is way behind the curve of the game, is a power farm jungler, is at maybe a little over 5 CS per minute, maybe a little bit closer to 6 CS per minute. Right, behind the Sylas, who's one of the worst farming junglers. And so even though they burned all their cooldowns, right now they have numbers advantage, right? They have 4 people down here. Ashe's mid, Mundo's top. And that's okay-ish. We're trying to get Ashe farm to get back into the game. But then we're agreeing to give the objective. And it doesn't feel like that's how we're playing. And then we're like, oh crap, we need Ashe here. Oh crap, we need Mundo here. So Mundo's TPing on the wave. They see that. And so they're all backing off. And we see the Fiora TP. And we're spam pinging the Fiora. We want to play on the Fiora, but it's Fiora. It's a little difficult. Right, and so now we force ourselves into a 5v5. But look how split we are. They can damage Mundo so much here for free. And now we burn our Ashe ult. I think it's a really bad ult to go for. One, because it's Fiora, or one, because of mobility, right? Fiora's going to easily dodge the ult. And second, because of Fiora parry. Obviously she didn't parry there, but if she did, then Mundo already loses passive. And then now, because we fished for the Ashe ult on the Fiora, we don't have it for this fight. And I think it'd be really important to keep Ashe ult here for this fight, because now, like, imagine if we Ashe ult, even if we hit Teemo, right? If we can pop Teemo at the start of the fight and essentially fight 5v4, like, that could be big. But Akali reset, Akali TP back in. And so, like, health-wise, we're in a really good spot here as well. We don't have vision. So Hawkshot isn't up yet. So we're just fighting around this dry bush. Right, all the wave states are really, really awkward now, because we blew both TPs without necessarily needing to. So, like, if instead of Akali TPing immediately bot lane again, Akali walks up mid, pushes out mid wave, and now has TP available, we force them to do something. We have a TP, they don't. We're pushing a different lane. All 5 of them are grouped in one spot. So we can leverage that summoner spell advantage to create pressure. And under pressure is when people make mistakes. So maybe they try to engage, Sylas hits E2, but then Ambessa still doesn't have ult, so Ambessa can't follow up. So then we can turn around, burst the Sylas as Akali TP is coming in, they were flooding it to follow up on Sylas E2, and then we punish them for doing sort of the exact same thing I've been getting on our case about doing, which is trying to bail out a dead teammate. And then we could get a really advantageous team fight, which we translate directly into Otacon. Right, but then here, we lose this HP trait so bad, right? Braum loses so much health and we barely touch the Fiora. So now, because we've stalled this out for so long, Ambessa ult is back up. We pop Zanya's, like, the Sylas straight inted. Akali has a really good angle on flank right now, kills the Ezreal. Alright, this fight is pretty good. But Ashe burns down, and it's 3 for 3. It's Mundo Akali versus Teemo Fiora. Right, we're not going to really be able to accomplish much here. I think we get the dragon here. That was best case scenario team fight, and it went 3 for 3. So we can't just win that straight up team fight, which is why it's so important to utilize that summoner spell advantage earlier. So then almost nothing happens in the game here for another couple minutes. I think we do randomly pick someone. We actually killed 2, and we actually get Otacon, which is nice. So it was well done to find that opportunity, right? Fiora has a lot of their gold, and if Fiora wasn't there. And the gold lead actually isn't that big right now, it's only about 3.5k. So with that in mind, Fiora in isolation is almost 4k gold up on Mundo. So if Fiora's not there and Mundo's not there, it's an equal gold game. And then what's happening here? Like, how are we getting caught in this situation? See Mbessa, we see Silas, we see Teemo. We know they're all in our topside jungle. Alright, so we even hit them with Shuriken and then we're poking back in. Look how far away our team is. Yes, you're in Akali, yes, you can buy a lot of time, but there's no reason to be face-checking back into this bush. Right, that's just giving them a free kill. And then we show up to try and help out. Right, yeah, we trade back on Teemo. But, like, Akali's dead. Akali is the person we have most of our gold on. The person we traded is Teemo. So both of them down, their team now has a 4k gold lead in the team fight again. And so, you know, that fight, again, comes out a lot closer than it really had any right being. But it all stemmed from Akali getting caught, right? If Akali's not caught there and you can just take a straight-up 4v4 team fight, you're in a much better position. And if Fiora misplays this so bad, holy crap. That's hilarious. Pick the Teemo. And I mean, we have fights like that too, right? We catch them out of position. We got a 3-for-0 trade there. So even though the game doesn't feel that great, we can still make things happen when we're using our cooldowns and we're not getting caught. We're starting a fight on our terms. We got the poke off. We got the Ashe ult. We are able to follow up and follow through. Then we're able to get our prize of Dragon. Great. Awesome. Now what? You know, we evened up the gold again. You know, fight Fiora for a bit, sure, whatever. But then Diana's pushed up pretty far top. We got the tower, but then they got Baron. Alright, so this whole time, we have no one who's in position to check and contest Baron. And if they had any vision of this area, honestly, they probably still see the Shroud, because, yeah, they still see the Shroud because of the minions. They know that Akali's bot lane, they can take this. Now, it's not a super healthy clear, right? But they saw Diana on top wave, they saw both Akali and Mundo bot, Braum was on mid wave. Like, they knew it was safe even with just the two people. So, with that one team fight that we had around the dragon, we didn't use that to then set up vision for the next objective, and I think that's another big thing too. We have the window of opportunity, we should be looking for that vision, and that way we're not caught off guard in these subsequent plays. And so here's another one, right? We killed the Teemo and lose 4 people. So I'll keep the camera over here. So we pop the Teemo. We can just walk out. There's no reason for us to stay here. We just walk out. Alright, half health, half health. We can't take this fight. So there's no reason for us to be sticking around and lingering. Right? I mean, you saw what happened. And now Braum is randomly in the middle of no man's land here. Because Silas jumped the Ashe. Alright, so while we were looking bot lane there, Ashe dives mid. Right, and so then this is 2 sides of the map at the same time, where we're just not paying attention to what could be happening. Ashe stepped forward. That was bad, but Braum also was completely abandoning Ashe, so it sounds like Braum was getting distracted by comms for the bot lane play. Ashe didn't have ult because the Ashe ult hit the Teemo, wasn't paying attention to the screen right in front of them, didn't space well, and so now we have 4 deaths here that didn't need to happen. And so then off of those 4 deaths, alright, they're able to take inhibitors, they're able to get deep vision control, and it's really difficult for us to ever find footing back into this game. Right, we're constantly having like 1 or 2 people dead. And then but I think the nail in the coffin here was Diana getting this steal. Right, so Diana... who's going to be over there? So when Diana goes for the steal, awesome. Alright, great steal, great 50-50. Right, Braum is setting up the vision. But right here, Braum got the vision on that ward. There's nothing else Braum and Mundo can do. There's no reason for them to be anywhere near this pit. So Diana dies, getting the dragon, right? Awesome, great. Quite frankly, they could have and should have chased down Braum Mundo. And I guess here's where we die instead of it being like immediately. But the big thing is we should never be in this position in the first place. We got the Chem Soul and now we're stuck in a spot where we have no way of getting back to the base. We should just be back in the base by now if we hadn't walked up towards the objective. And so now Diana doesn't spawn for another 12 seconds, but everyone's already dead. And so that's where they close the game out. So if we're looking for one of these hero plays, hero steals, it doesn't matter if we all just die after the fact, right? It's a suicide mission, we have to let it be a suicide mission. Either Diana gets it or doesn't. We just try to defend 4v5, we can't step out of base. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we're doing that we just don't have to be doing. That's exposing us to a lot more of this risk. But I think that initial set of notes that I sent you guys really just hit the nail on the head there in terms of sort of the big overarching concepts of not being on the same page, not cutting our losses, and just not making plays happen on our own, and trying to react to everything when a lot of times the drafts we're picking necessitate proactivity rather than reactivity. So if you have any questions about specific things or anything you wanted me to cover that I didn't, just let me know.